Good morning. Welcome back. It's Friday Coffee Talks, episode number 52. I can't believe we've made a full year of Coffee Talks. Thank you all for being with us. We've got a great year ahead. It's been a great year that we've had in the past. I thank you for indulging me in this new hobby that I've got. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you are as well. We've got some great interviews with some awesome people coming up. I'm sure we've got some really fun things that we'll do over the next year, but thank you for being on this journey with us. One of those interviews is coming to us today. So please enjoy my conversation with my good friend, Alex Tracy. All right, well, welcome back. It's Friday Coffee Talks number 52, our very special 1-year anniversary episode. And today we're joined by a dad, a husband, a salesman, technologist, an appetizer connoisseur, a Pittsburgh lover, I would say, and an ex-cheerleader. It's Alex Tracy, excuse me. Hey, buddy, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Thanks. I didn't realize this was week 52. I feel special.
Yeah, you are our 1-year guest, so we're glad you could
Nice.
make it with us.
I'm sorry that all you could get for your 1 year was me, but we'll make it fun.
So I want to jump right into one of the things I just said. In college, Arizona State, right?
Yep, ASU.
You were a cheerleader. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it 100% happened by chance. So my high school background is track, bowling, basketball, anything but cheerleading. Marching band, forgot about that. So obviously kid, grew up in Ohio, moving out to Arizona for college, went to registration, the thing where you go around all the booths. We're walking around and about 12 beautiful girls come up to me and they're like, hey, by the way, they're dressed as cheerleaders. They come up, they're like, hey, you have any interest in running flags at the football games? I'm like, yeah, it sounds kind of cool. I look back at my dad. My dad's like, is this a joke? Like, we get punked here? What's going on? So they're like, all right, if you're interested, come to practice later today at 4:30. I was like, all right, sounds good. So show up at practice. We walk in and the whole dance team and cheerleading squad is just sitting on the floor. It's like, hi, I'm like, I'm a freshman, coming from high school. I'm like, all right, I'm really nervous. We get into it and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, by the way, you're not just going to be running flags at the games. You have to throw us up in the air. I'm just like, I don't know the first thing about that. So as long as you can teach me, we're good. It ended up being the best thing ever for college. I made some great friends, long-lasting relationships, and I was the captain the last 3 years. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I bet you can still tape your wrists like anything too.
Yeah. I was just talking to somebody about this actually. I haven't done anything in a long time, but I feel like it's one of those things that it would just come back to me. I just don't know if my back could handle it anymore 12 years later.
I feel like it's one of those things that once your kids get a little older, you're going to be launching them all in the air.
Oh, don't say older. It's happening already. I have photographs that my wife probably just squeals inside every time we look at them because I had no problem throwing our daughter up there when she was a little bit older. She's only 2, so it's not like she's old.
Yeah. Little infant just up over your head.
Yeah, when we got newborn pics, so we have 2. So we have a 2-year-old Emmy and then 6-month-old Jack. And when we had Jack, we got newborn pictures. And one of the pictures, I actually put her in my hands and just held her up above my head. And my wife was not outside for that picture. She didn't
a little bit of heart attack going on.
Back. Yeah, she didn't see it until we got the pictures back. So she was like, I didn't know about this. I'm like, I had it that way on purpose.
Wait until you stepped away.
Yep, 100%.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, so enterprise sales at HPE now. Tell me a little bit about how you got there, kind of through your career. What's your background like?
Yeah, so the long and short version of it. So I went to ASU for entrepreneurship and business management. After I graduated, I was dead set on staying out in Arizona. I didn't want to come back east. There's snow, there's snow. So I wanted to stay out in the sunshine. And I got a job out of college with a staffing company called Insight Global that they specialize in staffing for IT. So they're in Atlanta, so I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yeah.
But that was where my career started, and I think I worked there for 2 months before I left to interview for a job with LifeScan, which is a branch of Johnson & Johnson. So my dad's in medical device sales,
Cool.
diabetes supply. So I was like, hey, I'll follow in Dad's footsteps. I had to quit to go to that interview. So I finished second. I didn't get the job. and came back. I didn't have a job. So I was actually looking for a job for 3 months or so. A reseller out in Phoenix that's headquartered in Chicago called Sentinel Technologies found me. I went through the interview process, ended up taking the job. It was awful for a year. So if you've ever been in an inside sales position or starting off in IT, not in a manufacturer, you have to build your book, and you do it by just making calls constantly. So, I mean, it was hundreds of calls a week, every week for 12 months. And I remember calling my parents every day almost saying, listen, I think I'm going to quit. Like, I just can't do this. And, the team there, my boss, everybody was awesome. I learned a lot quickly. And it ended up being an 8-year relationship that was really great. And quite honestly, I don't know if I ever would have left if we didn't choose to move back east to raise a family.
Wow.
But I was there for 8 years and got really close with the storage rep out there at Nimble, who was acquired by HPE. And he became a mentor to me, and it got to a point where he knew I was looking to get back home, to this region, and said, hey, just so you know, the guy in Pittsburgh is actually going to be leaving soon if you're interested. I'm like, I'm a year away from wanting to do this. I didn't even tell my wife at first. I was like, we're just going to see how this goes. Ended up working out. We moved back. And the process was pretty easy, coming from a VAR that sold HPE products to HPE. Did that for 2 years, was part of the layoffs last year, and actually got brought back in this enterprise account manager role. And new team, same local people, but everything's just been fantastic. So
that's awesome.
That's the long skinny version of it. There's more in between there, but that's the quick jaunt.
Man, going from grinding away on the phones and wanting to quit to a 8-year tenure at a job, that's pretty big time. That's a lot of commitment.
I mean, it is, it's one of those things. I don't know if you've ever been on the reseller side, but once you start to build your book, it's hard to walk away. Sure. Because on the reseller side, your accounts don't really change. Your product set doesn't really change. So the relationship, as long as that stays intact, you have plenty of stuff to talk to your customers about, plenty of stuff to sell. Because, at HPE, we have a broad portfolio, but I'm one company. Mm-hmm. When I was on the reseller side, we sold Microsoft, we sold VMware. I mean, we sold the gamut. And
every company.
Exactly. I'm relevant in every IT conversation at a reseller. I try to be relevant in every conversation at HPE, but it's not always the case.
Right.
So yeah, no, it ended up working out great. I had some great customers, and like I said, it was phenomenal. I love the company, love the people, loved Arizona, but for my wife and I raising a family out there, just that didn't make sense.
Yeah, no, totally fair.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, probably more so than just about anybody I've worked with. We've worked on a couple opportunities together, done some great projects and work. You are a sales rep that is a really strong blend of technologist and knowing what the heck you're talking about, but also like really leaning into that relational side of selling. What are some of the things that you feel like you do differently that sets you apart in a role like this?
So, you sent me over some of the stuff we were going to talk about, and it made me kind of think about my career in a different way. And my first boss, when I was at the reseller, made it very clear that if you try and learn a lot about a lot, you're going to get buried really quick, because in this industry, things are always changing. Unless that's your job, don't worry about it. So what I started to do early on, and I've kept this practice relevant, is learn a little about a lot. So, HPE, when I was on the storage side, I only had a couple of products I had to worry about, so it was easy. Moving over to this side, there's a lot more stuff that I have to talk about. We have Aruba, we have compute, we have storage, we have our complete partners like Zerto, StoreMagic, like it goes on and on. And I can't know a lot about it. So what I do is I just learn the main talking points of the products, so that when I'm in a conversation and I hear keywords, I can go, oh, hey, have you guys thought about X? And it works out really well. That's it. That's where it stops for me on the technical side. I got experts, I got partners I can bring in. That's it. I don't try and be more. As soon as I start trying to be more than I am, it gets you into trouble.
Yeah.
But on the relationship side of thing, I also found really quickly, I'm not very good at faking relationships. So the customers that I'm close with and the partners that I work with, they're people that I've invested time in and genuinely have a good relationship with, both professionally and personally. And I find that when you have those personal relationships, it's a lot easier to go to bat for people. It's a
Oh
lot
yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to ask for favors or, quick turnarounds, whatever the case may be. Without those relationships, you're just another rep. And for me, I'm trying to build my personal brand, whether it was in Arizona, now it's in Pittsburgh. I hope I'm at HP for a long time, but you never know what can happen. I mean, heck, I got laid off last year. At the end of the day, I need people to know that, who they're getting with Alex Tracy, not so much who they're getting with like Alex Tracy HPE.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that carries throughout. So 2 things that I've done my entire career that I hope I continue to do that I think have helped make me successful. The second I get an email, as long as I can respond, I respond and just say, hey, I received your email. I'm working on it. I don't have an answer right now, or whatever the case may be. The second thing, this is about me. I really don't like to eat alone. So COVID was really hard for me because our credit cards got shut off our expenses. So I was at home, I wasn't going out to lunches. I wasn't going out to dinners. It was hard. But I really try hard to have every meal, at least 3 or 4 lunches a week, 1 to 2 dinners with a customer, a partner, and somebody that I can further that relationship with. When you go out with somebody and eat a meal, I find that about 5% of the time is actually talking shop.
Oh, absolutely.
The rest of it, you're learning about people, you're learning about their family, you're learning about what they do outside of work. And that's where relationships are built, not over Zoom calls. And that's why COVID's been hard. The other thing too, with COVID, unrelated to this, being able to read a room, it's very hard to do on video, or half people don't turn on video. It's a different time. But those are the 2 things I would say have been key to my growth and success over time.
Those are awesome. Yeah. Kind of to that end, I got to say, I don't think that I've ever met anybody that loves Appetizers as much as my wife does until I met you. You cannot go into a meal with Alex Tracy and not get a nice tour of the appetizer selection of wherever you are.
I'm starting to gather that my reputation in Pittsburgh has nothing to do with my ability as a sales rep. It only has to do about my ordering strategy at a restaurant. Appetizers are great, man. They're great. They're a great size for sharing. My wife and I, when we go out, well, pre-kids, we don't go out as much anymore, just her and I. But when you go out, you get a couple apps, you share it, have a couple drinks, and call it a day. Because when you get a meal, you got a whole plate you got to eat. That's not fun. I want to eat as many different things as possible.
Sampling, for sure.
100%. And you and I, we normally end up at the Mexican restaurant, and like appetizers at those Mexican restaurants, you can just go wild.
It's perfect.
Dips, it's endless. Big appetizer guy over here, though. Yeah.
Well, my wife is the same way, and I'm sure she'll watch this back. I would say a significant portion of the time we go out, if they have an appetizer sampler on the menu, that's what she's getting for her meal. Like always.
Yeah. It's so easy. And the sampler really, they really make it foolproof for you. It's, choose your flavor wing, and then maybe you get to pick something else. Like, all right, cool.
I hate decisions. It's perfect. Yeah. If you don't want to feel like you're missing out on the rest of the menu, get a sampler. Makes total sense.
100%. And then for the days that I'm not with people that do appetizers, or it's maybe just me and one other person, if I can't decide between entrees, I'll actually give the server like 3 options and just say surprise me, because it's the same thing. I don't really know. I can't decide, so decide for me.
That reminds, I used to do the same thing. I hate making decisions. I'm the worst decision maker ever. So my wife used to get on me about it all the time. Whenever we would go anywhere, I'd narrow it down to 2 or 3 things. And I'd go, all right, Mandy, 1, 2, or 3. And whatever number she picked, that's what I would get, because I didn't even want to think about it anymore.
Now, did you ever have any instances where there was one thing that you were kind of craving over the other, so no matter what number she said, you still got that one thing?
No, because that's like making the decision. That defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Stack the deck.
Yeah, 100%. My wife has a hard time deciding where we're going to eat, when we go out. And now with kids, it's really easy. We only have a handful of places we can go. But, pre-kids, it was a little bit more difficult. So I would always stack the deck with at least one place I was kind of more hungry for than the other. And I'd maybe leave out that one place that I know she always picks, so that I had a better chance of it. Because I don't want to pick. No, it's your turn to pick dinner. But here's your option.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do the one that I don't want to go to.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think your wife and I would get along pretty well.
Yes, for sure. So kind of going back to that, like mentorship and sales development. Let's say like somebody coming out of college, maybe starting their sales career. What do you feel like are some of those characteristics that are just really key to a successful sales career? Maybe getting started on the right foot.
Yeah, a couple things. So first, it's going to be a grind. Like I said, I hated my life some days. You got to be willing to put in the work early on in career, especially in sales.
Yeah.
Because when you come into any sales field, whether it's in tech or something else, you're unknown at the time. So, you call somebody, nobody's going to trust you day one, just because you happen to work for company XYZ. Like I said, building up a brand is very important, and that's something that takes time. The second thing is find a company that nurtures employees. There's some really great programs out there, especially in tech, for people right out of college. They have programs that, focus on the sales aspect of it more than the technical side of it. So people can get their feet under them on, talk tracks, closing deals, whatever the case may be. But they're very competitive. The other thing too, in our industry, had I not started on the reseller side, I truly don't know if I would be successful today, or at least like I am.
Wow.
Because starting on the reseller side it gives you the big picture. I was talking network, security, data center, cloud, all of it. So I had to learn our industry. Now mind you, I didn't do the high performance compute, that kind of stuff, but I learned most of what IT is about. Being at a large manufacturer, you may sell multiple things, but more often than not, when you get into a specific project or deal with a customer, you're talking about a specific portion of it. Mm-hmm. And that exposure just doesn't happen like it does on the partner side, because like I said, you can talk about everything. So I mean, honestly, if I had a friend call me today that was in, the early 20s, finishing up college, and said, hey, I want to get into tech, go find a partner, pound the phones, get your mouth around a pitch and figure out what to do next. Because if you get in and you do it right, you could, number one, build a great book. Right. But number two, you can kind of write your ticket to go anywhere, because you have a proven track record of being able to build a book from the ground up. You walk into a manufacturer role, at least in the field, more often than not, you already have customers. Now, you go to a startup, it's a little bit different. But those are definitely the big things. And the other thing too is be yourself. If you try and, put a square peg into a round hole, it doesn't work. So, if you get into it and it doesn't feel like it's for you, figure something else out, because there are people, I see it all the time in our industry, that they were engineers and they're trying to do the sales side, or they're sales trying to do something else. And it's not natural, and that's okay. I mean, I get it. There's positions that it's not always perfect. But if you're not comfortable in a role, there's other jobs out there. There's other roles within companies. I know a lot of people that have been wildly successful in tech that are on the project management side of things, or the product development. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot.
Yeah. It's an interesting perspective. Because typically I feel like, especially you talking about the progression of your career, it seems like most times people go the opposite way. They start at the big companies, the Microsoft, the Google, the whatever, and they work their way down to the smaller startups or to the resellers. So it's interesting that you really place such a big value on going kind of the opposite way.
So let me flip that for you one more time, just to add some more confusion. So I do think that for learning in a non-traditional manner, the partner is the best. Manufacturer, traditional way, curriculum, that kind of stuff, you're going to learn a lot. However, end of career, I can't think of a better place that you would want to be than at a partner. You've built your book, you have your relationships. Yeah. Then now you can go somewhere and not have to worry about losing your job, learning about your accounts changing. Your quotas really aren't that bad. But again, that's somebody that has 10, 20, maybe even more years of experience under the belt, with those relationships that are like glue. Like, hey, our families are friends, we hang out. He's not going to buy from anybody else. that standpoint, I do agree that it is very smart to go to a partner, afterwards, but that also takes time.
Sure.
So
yeah, partners aren't looking for fresh out the gate. They want somebody that's going to go and have that book of business already.
correct.
Yeah.
Because it takes time, to ramp up that book. It's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were saying, the manufacturer side of things, depending on what manufacturer, you're walking into some customers that already know your name. Maybe not your name, but hey, I'm with HPE, okay, oh, we got HPE servers, or we got a Nimble, we got whatever. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Having the logo on your business card definitely opens some doors.
Yep. Agreed.
So talking about being authentic and being yourself, I feel like a lot of people, one of the common mistakes I see, not that I'm doing everything correct myself, but they see these experts and these big name like sales guys, they're out there and they're emulating Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort or, whoever these gurus are that have these crazy seminars and, whatever. I feel like those guys though perpetuate some of these stereotypes of salespeople. What are some of the ones that you think are fair, actually fit? And what are some of the ones you think are maybe unfairly put on people like us?
So, it's tough because I think our industry has changed the perception of salespeople, for better or for worse. There's the saying now, tech bros, and I think it's predominantly talking about the California markets, San Jose, New York City, that kind of stuff. I'm not a tech bro. You're not a tech bro.
No.
It's just not who we are. But when I tell people what I do, I can tell people's heads that's instantly where they go, because that's what it is today. Sales in general, I think, gets a greasy reputation.
That's a good word.
And personal story on this one. So when my wife and I were dating, second or third date, we start talking about the family a little bit. And she goes, hey, I was like, what does your dad do? Just curious. She's like, he's a car salesman. And instantly, just because of that reputation, my head just went on the negative side, because of the stigma that's associated with car salesmen. But obviously, well, you don't know him. I'm saying that like he's here. My father-in-law couldn't be further. I mean, he's devout Christian. He treats his customers fantastically. Like he's very good at his job. And it kind of changed my view a little bit, because I had that, view of it, but that's not the case. And I think in our industry, especially on the manufacturer side, I was just having a conversation with a partner about this yesterday. End of quarter, end of year, the manufacturer reps come out of the woodwork. Hey, I got to make my number for the quarter. Hey, I got to make my number for the year. And I've really tried hard throughout my career to not be that guy. Hey, listen, Mr. Customer, it is our end of quarter. It is our end of year. I could probably go get something for you here, a little bit of discount, whatever. The business is hungry for it. But I'm not going to call you every day 10 times, and that's the downside of our industry, I think, is there's some very aggressive people, and they're very good at their jobs. It's a balancing act for me. I'm not that personality is not me.
Right.
But outside of that, man, the stereotypes, I think, are different by region. Up our way in the Midwest or whatever I'm in. My job is in the Mid-Atlantic, but I don't actually know where Pittsburgh falls, if I'm being honest, because I grew up in Ohio, which is definitely the Midwest. But up here, oh, yeah, I need one. But like I was saying, we don't have tech bros. We don't have guys walking around chasing the IPOs. The guys that are doing the startups here in Pittsburgh and in our region, they're well-seasoned, sales veterans that have been in this industry for 20 plus years and have put their time in to build those relationships. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like I didn't answer that question great, because I've never actually had to think about the stereotypes. They definitely exist though.
I mean, no, the one I get more often than not is, and I can't tell you how many times I'm having a conversation with a customer and I'll mention something about like, okay, this is a problem we solve, or this is an issue that we address. And they come back to me, and the notion that they have in their head is, you're only talking about this because it leads to a commission check for you. You're not really interested in what I'm talking about. You only want a commission check. And then, as I get to know them, that's typically on like a first meeting. And as I get to know people and work with them more, I'm hoping that I'm proving to them that no, commission check is part of the job. It's part of the compensation plan, but like I'm out there trying to help people, and the projects I work on have impacts to people's lives. And, that's something that I'm interested in as well. It's not just about, making money for me, that's part of it for sure.
100%.
But it's not the only
we
thing.
wouldn't be doing this if we weren't interested in making money. But that's actually one of the things I'm really enjoying being at HPE is, we're not just product driven. So, with the new GreenLake offering, which is, cloud comes to you essentially, it's a consumption model. But it allows us to go in with these customers and actually have conversations about workloads without talking about products, which for me, I really enjoyed that side of the partner when I was there, because I could go into customers and say, listen, I am the barrier between the manufacturer and you. I'm here to snuff out the bullshit and be able to tell you if that's something you actually need, or if they're just trying to sell you the latest and greatest. And at HPE, in some of the conversations, not all of them, some of them are still product driven, don't get me wrong. But having the conversation about workloads and how to deliver those workloads to the business, it really takes the product out of it, because once we know what we're trying to solve, we can say, hey, there's only two options here on what we can do. Here's your choices, and here's why each is better or one's worse, whatever the case may be. It's a completely different method of selling. And I think I like the new age of selling because it's more consultative than it is, hey, I got this great new SAN, you can do 210 terabytes and it's got so many IOPS. Like, customers don't care anymore. Our hardware is becoming commoditized as an industry.
Right.
And now the stuff that's changing is consumption model. How can I consume it differently? How can I connect it into the stuff I have in the cloud easily? It's just a completely different conversation. But I agree with you. I guess I didn't really think about stereotypes in the broader sense. So I'm glad you said that, because I do think that's a very common stereotype, especially from the customer perspective.
Yes.
Here's another guy reaching out to me about a product. All right, here we go. But yeah, you're not wrong at all. You hit the nail on the head. I think that's very common everywhere. That's not regionalized at all.
Yeah, for sure. So let's change gears a little bit. Talked about Alex at work and Alex not at work, and how you like to blend those two when you're talking to customers. Tell me a little bit about Alex not at work. What are the things you like to do? What are the hobbies? What keeps you going when you're not on Zoom calls or eating appetizers?
Well, normally if I'm eating appetizers, it's for work.
Oh, right.
No, I said this to my boss during one of our QBRs. COVID was one of the best things that happened to me. We moved to Pittsburgh. We had our first baby shortly after, and COVID came. And, we had a 4-month-old at the time.
Wow.
And I got to be home, I already work out of the house, but I was gone in meetings, the usual road stuff. But I was truly trapped at home, for lack of a better word, for, 5-6 months before stuff really started to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, in between calls and in between meetings, I could go downstairs and hang out. I have a special bond with her that it's irreplaceable, because I got that time, and now having a 6-month-old, we're going through it all over again. And it's insane, but it's great. The work-life balance at HPE is fantastic. So I get a lot of time with them. So that's the driver, my family. It's at the end of the day, I want to be able to spend time with them. I don't want to have to work forever. I want to be able to enjoy my kids as they get older, watch them play sports, go to college, go visit them, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But outside of that, my personal interest, cooking, golf, and travel.
Okay.
Travel hasn't really been happening too much, but pre-kids, my wife and I, when we were out in Arizona, on the West Coast, you're a lot closer to a lot of stuff. You got California, you got the Northwest, you got Hawaii, which is only a 6, 7, 8 hour flight away, depending on the winds. So we made a decision before we chose to move, that we were going to travel as much as possible, see as much as possible. And we did a lot, and we got a lot in, and that tank was full. But now that we have kids starting to get a little bit older, it's just starting to come back. And it's just with COVID, we haven't really made the plunge to do it. So I'm hoping we can do that, because listen, travel, there's nothing better as far as exposing yourself, your kids, anything to, new places, new people, new things, new foods. Just go down to Epcot and do around the world. You can taste a couple different countries in an hour.
Yeah.
So it's travel's great, but cooking and golf, those are probably the two things that I would spend my time doing. So, pre-COVID, we would have the typical 8 to 5 day.
Mm-hmm.
We'd finish up a meeting at the end of the day, and then we'd have a drive home, right? And COVID now, we don't have that time. So my buffer zone now for me to kind of decompress from the day is to hit the kitchen and make dinner for the family.
Nice.
It's my favorite place to be in the house. I love cooking. My wife and I have completely different, food types.
Okay.
I love refined food, Italian, Asian, just simple stuff. My wife likes the hearty stuff, pot roast, turkey and mashed potatoes. I'm not a hearty food kind of guy. I'm the other end of the spectrum. So my mom, when she comes in, she'll make some stuff for my wife that she enjoys, but it's just, that's the only thing I don't do well as a husband. I don't make the food that she likes all the time. But I really do enjoy the kitchen. And then golf, man, in this job, I actually didn't take up golf seriously until about probably 6 years ago. And it's one of the best decisions I made, because there are so many people that golf, whether it's on the partner side, customer side, channel side. There's always somebody that's willing to go out, and it's kind of like going out to a restaurant. Mm-hmm. You talk about business for 5% of the time, and the rest of it you're shooting the shit and just getting to know each other. Yeah. And you can't beat it.
Or in my case, you're in the woods looking for your ball.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, listen, that's me too. Don't let me fool you. I'm not a scratch golfer. And I have an awful slice off the tee box, so I'm always looking for the first ball. But after that, it's all right.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Let's say you're having some friends over for dinner at the house, which I know doesn't happen that often with COVID and kids anymore. I'm experienced both of those. But do you have a signature dish? Like, what is Alex's, like? If you're cooking, people are like, oh, I hope he makes this for us.
So it depends on the season. I'll give you that. So in the summertime, it's normally something on the grill. So either steaks or steak bowls, with rice and some veggies. Wintertime, it's probably beef short ribs with homemade gnocchi. So my wife will actually make the gnocchi. We use ricotta. We don't do the potato. But put the short ribs in the crock pot. It's great. And then spring and fall, or any other time that somebody's a fish lover, I do miso salmon with snap peas, green beans, and white rice, and that's definitely a favorite of most people. Yeah, it's really good. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not hungry at all, but I am now.
There you go. Yeah, you made me hungry too.
Yeah. So it depends, man, and everybody has different tastes. So I always try and accommodate the people that are coming over. But if it's the guys, normally just let's order a pizza and some beers.
Shoot, yeah, there you go.
I'm not cooking for them. Yeah, I'm not cooking for them.
Oh man, so we've talked a little bit about COVID. We've talked about kind of the new outlook on work. It's been 2 years essentially of like really heavy change for people like me and you. What do you see, or what do you hope even are some of the changes that we've got coming ahead of us in sales roles, in IT, in our day-to-day lives?
So when COVID started, I actually originally thought that our jobs were going to go away.
Me too. That was my first thought.
100%, because I felt like I wasn't adding value as a field rep, because I couldn't go out and meet with people. I wasn't doing what my job was titled as. But I quickly got over that, and it took 6 months and stuff started to open back up, because at the end of the day, it goes back to relationships. Mm-hmm. But I think our jobs are here to stay. They're just a little bit different. And honestly, the most frustrating thing about COVID for me is, you have everybody in this country has different political views, and I'm not going down the politics alley, don't worry. But you have some people that are willing to go out to lunch and dinner right now. You have some people that aren't comfortable doing it. And then with everybody being different, so every company, some people work from home, some people are hybrid, some people are completely in person. Some people live an hour and a half from the office, and then in turn 2 hours from my house. So it's not easy to get together for a lunch or a dinner. So I have customers that I used to see regularly that I'm not seeing much anymore at all because they're not back in the office. And that part of it is really hard. So if that ends up sticking, with these customers adopting new working policies, which I think is going to become more common, sure. Our roles are going to change a little bit in how we maintain relationships with people, because like I said, everybody has a different comfort level with COVID and what they do outside of the house. And that's a choice that luckily everybody gets to make. It's been difficult to foster those relationships and move deals, because at the end of the day, I mean, if you think about how many emails we even get on a daily basis, imagine how many emails a director of IT at Joe's Pop Shop's getting. I'm not at the top of I'm not at the top of the list for responses. Even if it's an urgent project, they got other things to do. Whereas if you go to lunch, dinner, or anything, happy hour, you have a captive audience and you can talk about things. So right. that part's really hard. I think our industry as a whole, though, did you ask about our industry or did I make that up?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I think the industry as a whole is going to continue down this hybrid cloud journey. I think everybody right now, manufacturer wise, is trying to figure out how to earn their place in a customer's portfolio when customers are adopting cloud, but also want to maintain some on-prem equipment. So everybody's figuring out how to approach that with the customer. And I think we're going to see that continue to transform and it get easier for customers to be able to consume IT, between the cloud and on-prem. It seems top of mind for people. And the other thing that doesn't really touch us too much, well, it does a little bit, but security. I think security is going to be a huge hot topic for the next decade.
Absolutely.
I think it's only going to get hotter, and you're going to see a lot of new players and products in that space that offer things that aren't being offered or even thought of right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, for sure. Oh man. Well, Alex, thank you for being here. I've got one more question for you. Say you, your wife, the kids, you guys are out on the town, decide you got to go step into a coffee shop and get something to drink. What is the go-to order when you're ordering coffee?
So I'm making everything complicated. It depends on the season. So in the fall and winter, so we're a Starbucks family here. Minus Saturdays, I take my daughter to go get a donut at Dunkin'. But yep. Dunkin', if our family's going there, my wife's getting a pink drink. I'm normally getting a cold brew with vanilla sweet cream. And then the daughter's always getting a cake pop if we go. So
that is almost exactly our order too.
Yeah, it seems pretty popular among families. You go in, you normally see some tea or lemonade and a coffee, and then you always see the kid with the pop. So this is definitely our go-to. And the only thing that stinks, well, for better or for worse, the Starbucks close to our house, they don't have a drive-through. So it's actually in a mall. So it's a pretty safe and open mall, but it's great. So we'll go on the weekend sometimes and let our daughter just kind of run around and have fun. It's a safe space. So we can have our coffees and all that stuff and just hang out as a family for a little bit. I am curious though, what's yours?
Oh man. I haven't been asked yet. That's awesome. Starbucks just got rid of the apple crisp macchiato. In fact, I went there this week and ordered one and they're like, sorry, man, it's gone. I loved that drink. I can't wait till next fall when it comes back. It's fantastic. Right now though, it's typically just like a vanilla cappuccino. I'm pretty simple. I'm only hot drinks though. I hardly ever get cold brews.
I'm polar opposite. I'm only ice. So I'm always warm, always. Like it could be summertime and I'm in the Blair AC and I'm somehow hot. But even at home, so if you don't have an espresso at home, I highly recommend you look at it. It's 10 times better than Keurig.
Oh yeah.
Nespresso, if you're watching this, send me some pods.
Sponsor Alex.
They came out with some ice pods that you do over ice, and they're so concentrated that by the time that it melts down, it kind of dissipates and is perfect.
Huh.
So I've really been enjoying it because I'm, like I said, I don't love hot coffee. So if I did, I was ripping a shot of espresso or something simple because sipping on coffee is not really my game. But at the end of the day, they add some simple syrup and some milk and I'm good to go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, it's been a blast talking to you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it.
You too, man. Look forward to working with you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been Friday Coffee Talks number 52, 1 year under our belts. Hope you enjoyed chatting with Alex. We'll catch you guys next week.